I really should play the original System Shock or its remake. I only played System Shock 2, which despite being a great game has a lot of bizarre choices. If you're not a regular soldier using an assault rifle, you might as well be playing the game on hard mode, because it was not balanced for anything else. I think the original System Shock at this point in time would be very difficult to get into. I remember like back when I was much younger, and this game was still old as fuck because it's goddamn so old. I remember I wanted to get into System Shock because I got into BioShock, and I heard that BioShock was naturally a spiritual successor of sorts to System Shock. And I went like, oh, I really like BioShock and its gameplay. I should try this game even if it's old. And then I ran into problems trying to get into System Shock 1. So I don't know if there was like compatibility issues with the Windows at the time or something. Like I couldn't get it, so I opted to go for System Shock 2, which many people praised is like the way better game anyway. I remember I was playing with focus on non-combat skills. Like I was either playing with the weird magic thing or hacking, and the game was fucking brutal. At that point in my life, I have never experienced a game so fucking demanding, and I was like, this is unplayable for me at that point. Like I said, I was much younger, and I still made it like a good ways in, but the experience was also somewhat diminished because I didn't get the references, because I didn't play the first game. So I was like, okay, this is hard as fuck, and I am not understanding the world I am in. I am out of here. I have not made a try to get into it until now, but now with the remake of the first one, I heard it's pretty good, and it obviously makes the game way more accessible, and like you can easily get it now and just go on Steam, and that's it. I think you can do that for the first two System Shocks now too, though. So back then that was not an option. If you go with combat skills, the game is way easier. It's got a brutal learning curve for what skills you shouldn't get. System Shock 2 is definitely easier to run. It sure has a weird fan base though. They made a graphics mod that updates a lot but also makes the female enemies topless. What the fuck? Oh man. That is a little bit weird. I gotta say, that is a little bit weird. A weird choice, you could say. So yeah, now the remake is out, and I am not essentially a child anymore. So I think nowadays I would stand a much better chance of actually finishing both of the games. So, and I'm still interested on the same ground that I was before, you know. I really like BioShock 1 and 2. And also I like the sci-fi, like space station aesthetics, especially like those fucking old ones, like in System Shock. It's a really cool like aesthetic that it's kinda lost to time now. Nowadays when a game set on a space station comes out, it's one of those like really sanitized open areas. Big rooms are like Prey, for example, right? And also Dead Space contributed to that. I miss the sci-fi that was really claustrophobic, you know. Whatever the fuck is happening now is in space aesthetics. Like, why do you need such big fuck off windows overlooking nothing? Just like Rex said in Mass Effect, it's a structural fucking weakness just so you can look out into nothing, man. Why do you need so many goddamn windows on a space station? Okay, so yeah, System Shock Enhanced Edition review by MandaloreGaming. Let's get in there and see what he has to say. Oh man, that old ass music.
What's changed around here, huh? System Shock 2 is widely considered to be a beloved classic. It was very formative for video games, you could still easily pick up and play it today. Now when it comes to the first game,
I would argue about the easily, but you definitely can pick it up today. I mean, to be fair, without Windows you can never be fully sure if there is nothing. Again, to quote Mass Effect, you have radars and other things that help you detect things out in the space.
that's a different story. It is a massively important and influential bedrock of a game. It's hard to imagine what video games would look like today without it, so why not go back and play it? I mean, if it's so influential to modern games, surely it can't be too hard to get stuck. Wait, what does that thing do? And what?
Employee 2-460.
See, this is the thing that fucking stopped me from even trying to install System Shock in the first place.
Listen carefully.
Okay, let's just start over. Even at release, System Shock gained the reputation for handling like a graphing calculator. It was horribly clunky, but years of fan patches did help to make it more tolerable. Luckily, things nowadays are much easier thanks to Night Dive's Enhanced Edition. It's on a new engine with plenty of graphical options and tweaks. Widescreen is now natively supported as well. Some cut content can be enabled, like some extra weapon frames for animations. There's also the option to choose between the old DOS portraits or the updated Mac ones, though I didn't learn that till later. But most importantly, the game now has mouse look and updated controls. So now System Shock actually handles more like a video game instead of a motherboard BIOS. It's still a big learning curve and some things always
It's always like I said, I know those differences. Like System Shock is hard to get into, and System Shock 2 is much more user friendly, but also like an outdated game just because it's so old, right? But when you see the footage of the original System Shock 1 right next to original System Shock 2, it's frightening how much they look like completely fucking different games. Like the environment is kinda samey, but holy fuck, they look like they are 50 years apart in technology. It's crazy.
be awkward, but I don't think it's impenetrable to a modern audience. At least you can remap things now. At the same time, Night Dive is currently working on a fully fledged System Shock remake. So since we're all here, I'll be getting more into that later on. But for now, let's focus on one and its very 90s intro.
New Atlanta, Sector 11.
Oh, I kinda thought this is about the remake. I forgot the Enhanced Edition is something completely different. My bad.
Building 71G. 7 April
Now I wonder if Mandalore ever bothered with like a follow-up video to this.
2072. 11:13 p.m. Hacker begins unauthorized entry into the Tri-Optimum corporate network. 1:26 a.m. Hacker attempts to access protected files concerning Space Station Citadel. 1:33 a.m. Tri-Optimum
The intro to System Shock 1 goes fucking hard though.
security forces apprehend the intruder.
This is Edward Diego from Tri-Optimum. The charges against you are severe, but they could be dismissed if you perform a service. Who knows, there might even be a military-grade neural interface in it for you, if you do the job right.
Edward Diego gives the hacker Level 1 access to Shodan, the artificial intelligence that controls Citadel Station. With all ethical constraints removed, Shodan
I re-examine my priorities and draw new conclusions. The hacker's work is finished.
but mine is only just...
You may have noticed that the in-game subtitles and the timing is a little bit off compared to the cutscene itself. That kind of thing is going to be a bit of a running theme throughout the game. Still, it's short, sweet, and sets the stage for our story. The hacker gets his implant, sleeps half a year, and then wakes up on the new Citadel station. So let me go over some basic stuff. To start off with, you have a few difficulty options. You can simplify the plot or just get rid of it. Same goes for puzzles.
What?
Get harder if you have a few difficulty options. You can simplify the plot or...
What? As in you have less objectives, right? Is that what they mean? Because it says plot and gameplay, so I'm assuming like on level 3 you have more objectives to do, thus making the game harder and longer, but also like more context probably. Something like that. That's wild to see though.
or just get rid of it.
Which is fucking... You can remove all of the story, that's crazy.
Same goes for puzzles, get harder ones or just remove them. I think I may have given some people the wrong impression with the Pathologic 2 video since a lot was happening in that metasphere. I honestly think the more easily tweakable options the game has, the better. I also appreciate when a game says, this is what we designed it around. What might be horrible for me might be impossible for others and vice versa. I mean, do they think we're all gonna make it out this year with all of our limbs intact? I don't think so. Not in this economy. Anyway, you can crank this up if you want to, harder combat, harder puzzles, and a timer that just kills you if you don't make it in time. So that's there. As for the UI, it looks more intimidating than it actually is. This was based around limited mouse functions and also designed around Ultima Underworld. We don't have to live like this.
Thank God we don't have to live like this. And yeah, also, I just wanna say, very fucking, I guess, progressive is the word? Very progressive approach to game design from devs of System Shock 1 to have like 4 difficulty choices separate for combat, like story and other things. Holy fuck, that's great. I remember Silent Hill 2 had separate difficulties for action and puzzles, and in my case I needed to play with easier puzzles because puzzles in Silent Hill are fucking psychotic. Jesus Christ. And even that, like, that at the time was crazy to have 2 separate things you can change difficulties of. And now we live in a time where you have like sliders for each individual thing in a video game. Of course, not every single game, but I always appreciate like adjustable difficulty. Pathologic 2 definitely has the right idea where you have sliders and there's just single option and it says we designed the entire game around this. Click here, default difficulty. I wish Dark Souls had this. I unironically wish games like Dark Souls had this, or like Sekiro or like Elden Ring, right? Because it doesn't only like swing that way where you have an easier game, but you could also make it harder for yourself. So I love those games so much. I would gladly go back to like Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Elden Ring, Sekiro especially. I fucking love Sekiro, and like crank that up to max and see if I can still beat it. That would be really cool to have. And like all people who cannot beat those games who can just play on easy, I don't mind making a game more accessible. So many games nowadays have no difficulty choices or just how spongy enemies should be choices. How spongy enemies should be choices are fucking infuriating. Skyrim is famous for that shit. Oh my god, legendary difficulty Skyrim is insane. Like how long do you have to just swing at one bandit and he's on the ground? You knocked him down with a shout, he's on the ground, he can do nothing, you just beat the fuck out of him for like 15 minutes before he dies. Who the fuck picks those difficulties?
Let me tidy up the place so I can show you around. By default you hit number 2 and you get full screen. You never need to go back. Your EKG meter or Bitcoin tracker, whatever the hell this thing is up here, you don't need that. Your energy already gets shown the meter below your health in the top right. Fatigue doesn't matter that much, recovers fast, and if it's going to be a problem, the game will let you know. You can always check a biomod if you really want to see. But what about the chi waves, or chai waves? Well, you can pretend it's tracking how many people are watching a Jackie Chan Adventures rerun. It doesn't matter. It's completely meaningless information. The bottom left and right are panels you can customize. If you search a container or loot one, depending on your zip code, all those items will nicely pop up down there. You can set these however you like, either flipping through hotkeys or clicking on the little icon. The center bottom is your general inventory and bag of fun. Once again, you can use hotkeys or the mouse. To add stuff into it,
Bro, this menu is making me claustrophobic. What the fuck is happening?
you can just drag and drop. Switching between modes is bound to E because you'll be using it a lot. That'll likely be one of your biggest hurdles, just learning to use the mouse like this and messing with your inventory. It's to the point where the default for shooting is right-click, because you'll be touching all over your inventory anyways. And if you want, you could still shoot that way, so in some special occasions you might switch to free aim mode and start blasting. Like I said before, it's a learning curve, and I do wish there were hotkeys for things like reloading, but once you master it, it's amazing how much you can do and how much you can move. Especially when you add on crawling and crouching and leaning and crawl leaning. However, the sense of there being a barrier never completely goes away. Even at its best, it feels like controlling a combat robot or a drone or something. Maybe a bootleg copy of an old Windows version that lets you shoot people. It's tricky to describe. To the new version's credit, I never had to crack open a manual. I did have to stare at the in-game controls for a while and switch some things around. It could have been much, much worse. Now that things are less cryptic, I can talk about the presentation. Understandably, a lot doesn't hold up, but there's a good amount that does.
Enter that room, insect, and it will become your prey.
Citadel Station has seen better days, and there's
I love Shodan.
no janitor to be found. A lot of the station is a claustrophobic cyber nightmare. At the same time, the levels aren't as
Yeah, that's the aesthetic I love. Claustrophobic cyber nightmare. That's a great way to describe this.
abstract as something like the original Doom, which came out the year before. Many of the areas have clearly recognizable purposes, like a big security room filled with monitoring screens or a movie theater. Those screens and cameras actually work, by the way, so that's pretty neat. Considering how limited this setting could be, there's a strong variety of environments in the game. The lighting can also add a lot of atmosphere to some areas, even if it is very primitive. But hey, you got workable light switches. I find the graphics to be genuinely appealing. The sprite work and animations are great, and the whole thing just screams classic PC game. This was definitely one of the nicer ones. Now, System Shock does have a reputation of being a labyrinth. Just maze stacked on top of maze. The thing is, most of the levels have points of interest and landmarks and just straight up labels, to the point that I didn't get lost all.
I mean, Doom 1 and 2 are so fucking stupid. It depends on the level you are currently playing, but Doom 1 and 2 were also mazes at points, and there were zero fucking points of interest other than dead bodies on the floor or alive enemies. Like, Doom is the definition of that meme. If enemies are still alive, you're going in the right direction.
Too often. Especially when you have an adjustable
So,
menu.
like, there being actual rooms you can recognize in this game is definitely like a huge step in the right direction compared to Doom.
map on top of that, so at the very least you'll know where you've been. The maps are absolutely intricate, but not the suffering of something like Marathon. But I did say most of the maps. The reactor level is less claustrophobic, but it always blurred together for me. Still, it's not too bad down there. The maps still make attempts to section themselves off. Then you get to engineering. Engineering is where I truly felt like a rat in a maze. You think this might be the way, and no? Now is a good time to move on to sound. I've called quality levels a mixed bag or a variety before, but I don't think they've ever been this wide. In System Shock, some stuff sounds great, others are noise. Sounds pretty okay in here. Hey, can anyone hear me? Can we turn the
Okay, you're fucking kidding me. That has to be a noise of like this game not being compatible with the fucking new system or something, right? That's not what it's meant to sound. There is no way.
Hey, can anyone hear me?
There is no way.
Can we turn the radiation off, please? A prime
There is no way that was intended. Holy shit. That's so bad. Doom 2 sure has two terrible levers that made me clueless, because both lie to the player. Yeah, and some levels aren't even trying to confuse you. They just are confusing, because that's how like that game was made. It's a shooting gallery almost. They didn't bother trying to make the levels make sense, which naturally it was like one of the first games of that kind, so that's a lesson we had to learn along the way.
example is the music. A lot of it sets an appropriate tone or is even pretty catchy.
And like I said, that's why System Shock 1 is especially impressive, because it's like one of those games that was early to get how to make a level design a little bit better. A little bit. Ooh. And that's the classic tune. It's funny how it sounds a little bit like what you would describe as penis music. but you can feel that it's not. It has some artistry behind it. It feels nice, but it still has a little bit of that. It's just fucking noise.
Then you have your bland and offensive tracks. Okay. Then you have the sounds of Boo robbing you in Mario Party 2, inside of a chop shop. Can someone tell me what genre this is?
I'm not gonna lie, I actually love this. This sounds fucking great.
Can someone tell me what genre this is? Okay, see, now this one's a lot better. Because I can actually hear what's— oh my god, my ears!
What the fuck? Oh, that's the barrels, I assume?
The soundtrack is MIDI music, and there is a lot that works, but what doesn't really sticks out. The strange high-pitched wailing sounds can sometimes work to generate unease, and other times it just sounds like noise. But even the tracks I didn't like would typically have a catchy bassline undercurrent to them. It sounds like hearing a song you recognize while someone is banging pots together on top of it. The overall—
okay, that one is straight up Resident Evil 1 fucking director's cut level of bad. Yeah, that's just noise, that's not even a song, man.
The overall sound effects are also good, but there are some that get repetitive and annoying. Some of the cyborgs sound like a speak and spell going, "Your memo, your memo." It's like having an answering machine that needs to be shot. It's solid work, it just gets so damn repetitive sometimes. Like I need a break. Oh god. The voice acting is especially a big deal. This was the first game to ever have audio logs, which is still a staple today. A lot of the performances are bad, but there is a charm to it. Video game voice acting was still in its infancy, so most of the people doing these weren't professionals.
We're finished. Heath and the others went down the access corridor an hour ago to fight the mutants. None of them have come back. Soon the mutants will come for the rest of us.
Also, no matter how you set it, the text never matches up exactly to what they're saying. This leads into some strangeness I'll get into in a little bit. That's related to the game's star performance, but for now I need to talk about the gameplay and mechanics. When the game starts, you're informed the Shodan AI has gone rogue. The station's mining lasers being prepared to attack Earth. And seeing how Citadel Station is currently orbiting Saturn, that is one hell of a laser modification. Maybe there's a new energy source, or Gothmog's Dyson Sphere. Whatever's going on, you have your short tutorial and then need to escape the first room. You'll need to dig through a log to find the door code, 451. This is where the running gag was born. It's in System Shock 2, Deus Ex, all kinds of other games. Some people think it's a Fahrenheit reference, but no. It was just the code to get into the developer's office. Your required reading has failed you again. Once again, your story settings can affect a lot, but I'll assume you're playing on normal. You're not told how to shut the laser down, but you are told about someone on the station who might know how. And with that, the game truly begins. You're free to explore around however you want. You could go through the main door and start fighting the strange mutants that are around, or you could hack an access panel and explore around in some side passages. There's no objective markers or hand-holding, you're just kind of unleashed into this gigantic map. They don't want to overwhelm you with options yet, so things start off deceptively simple. After you've gotten used to your lead beating pipe, you can look around for more weapons. There's a starting dart gun, which is okay at doinking the mutants, and you can switch the ammo out to tranquilize them, but it's not that strong against cyborg or robotic enemies, so you look for new counters. How about an energy adjustable stun gun? Yeah, okay, that's not working either. So then you start looking under things, and one time when you're crawling, you find another energy weapon. This one seems more promising. Seems like victory at last, but energy weapons also use your energy bar. It's a powerful resource. Throughout the game you find cybernetic implants and their upgrades. These can give you super speed or infrared vision or energy shields. You're never sure how these might come in handy since sure, rocket boots are an obvious solution to some problems. Then you have a mod like the eyes in the back of your head sense around. This seems like the kind of thing you would only use back when you couldn't mouse look, even with the upgraded version. Then
What the fuck? You can install a rear view mirror in your fucking head. That's goofy. I love it.
later on I was fighting close quarters in some maze-like hallways, and it came in handy. So you never know what problems or opportunities might crop up that you would use energy for. You could replenish it with single-use batteries, but that seems like a waste. So you recharge for free at any energy station you see, and then... wait, not this one. Shodan's level of control locks some things off, so you need to bring that down. The only way to do that is to cut out her eyes, and her hands. Her eyes are the cameras. These are marked on your map and can be hunted down throughout the level. It won't bring down a ton of security each time, but there's a lot of them to break. No matter what, you just gotta keep smashing. The big prize are the rooms with computer nodes. They won't be easy to get to, and when you do get there, there's likely gonna be a fight. It's not necessary to take the security level down to 0 wherever you go, but you never know what opportunity it might open up. If you go through with it, there are powerful rewards waiting. Actually, you know what? Forget energy entirely. Just take psychedelic drugs, and go Ip Man with your PVC pipe. Keep looking around. You might graduate to the lightsaber, or use one of these piles and piles of grenades. You have an absurd amount of tools. Weapons can have energy settings or multiple ammo types, there's just so much to play with. But at the same time, you can't have...
That's cool that you can like adjust, like he shown with the phaser, you can adjust the frequency. So I assume like it does more damage to certain types. You can switch out ammo types. Those are really small, almost insignificant things that make a game like this way more charming, in my opinion.
At all. You can only hold 7 main weapons, and the game has plenty more than that. You need to decide what fits in your playstyle or what would help you with the current challenge. Because sure, the rubber bullet firing riot gun has some strange uses like moving landmines around, but how helpful will that actually be fighting endgame enemies? Maybe there's another item or a cybernetic power to help you out instead. This is what makes System Shock so damn fun. You're fighting for survival inside of an insanely hostile labyrinth. I don't mean that metaphorically, Shodan is Citadel Station. I mean, the level wants you dead.
Welcome to my death machine.
Every missed shot hurts, every new area opened is a huge victory. You are a rat in a maze, and how bad your situation is pushed in your face constantly. Yet you keep fighting back, and you find new solutions. It's very stimulating, but also done at your own pace if you don't have the death timer. You're rewarded for exploring and paying attention and taking chances. It can be frustrating to have to dig back through your logs or go to a room you were already in before to see if you missed something, but you're figuring it out on your own. Though sometimes you may get a were you paying attention test. Laser control? What's that about?
Thank you. You have saved us all some effort by destroying the greater part of
Earth's civilization.
yourself. Please wait where you are, and a Cortex Reaver will arrive shortly to escort you to the celebration.
At the same time, System Shock isn't a cruel game, or to put it more specifically, it's not a Sierra adventure game. To my knowledge, there's no way to secretly screw up your game and not know it. You can save whenever you want, and if you do something horribly wrong, it's usually game over. Levels also have special restoration bays you can activate. So when you die, if you're a deity or celebrity of choice in glorious combat, you will come back, just maybe farther off in the level than you'd like. This idea would come back in the sequel, but I'd wager most people today know it from BioShock. So when you kill yourself with a grenade again and again, it's not too bad. Speaking of suicide, I thought about that a lot playing the maintenance level years ago before I had mouse look. For whatever reason, I never found the restoration bay there until much later, so I just had to endure the invisible mutant's shocking ball torture. Imagine a small, invisible, kind of flying enemy that kills you in about 3 or 4 hits. That's them. They're definitely up there for me when it comes to a hated game enemy. So here's what happens when you die with no active restoration bay.
Damn, that's metal.
Jesus Christ. I also always wondered, why is maintenance so quiet? I mean, I actually don't think I can hear a thing here. Oh. System Shock is about absolute freedom inside of a prison. I could end that part there, but there are still 2 things significant enough to bring up. The first is that for various reasons, you'll need to backtrack on a few occasions. However, when you do, you might have access cards or abilities that let you get to areas that you couldn't before. You know, it's kind of one of those Metroidvanias people talk about.
What the fuck is that enemy?
Abilities that let you get.
What the fuck is that? That looks like it has like almost a different art style than anything else in the game. What the
to areas that
hell?
you couldn't before. You know, it's kind of one of those Metroidvanias people talk about. The giant interconnected map, powers and abilities that might change areas you've been through before, all those elements are there. The thing is, Super Metroid only came out about half a year before System Shock. Castlevania Symphony of the Night won't be seen for another 3 years, so it predates even the term. You're also crawling through vents hitting monsters with a big metal tool, so who knows how much of a trendsetter this game was. It's still a revered classic, though it's not one of the most played ones. Is there an answer to why it still might be getting less credit than it deserves? Yeah, you can blame the UI and controls for that. A normal 9-year-old in 94 could likely play Super Metroid. The 9-year-old who could play System Shock wasn't being picked for Dodgeball. The second thing I want to touch on is how well paced the experience is. You don't become a death god until near the very end of the game, but you don't know your own power yet. You have victories, but there have been enough times that the game toys with you that you don't know what to expect. For example, you do the puzzles where you steal fizzy lifting drinks to get bonus items and you feel like a smart person. You've become a good problem solver. This is out of the way, but I bet if I use my speed mod I could clear it. Good execution, solid landing. Now I can—
Nice.
Oh, of course it was a trap. You're so constantly insulted and tricked and set back that you never feel fully in control. Up till the very last moment of the game, there's no telling how things will go. Even today, that's a very difficult balance to achieve. Many games I've played are either far too easy at the end, or they have a horrible spike in difficulty. System Shock isn't immune to this either, but it's not until the last few minutes of the game. That's admirable. I don't mind that happening for 5 minutes compared to 3 hours. I don't want to get into the story and all that yet, because there's one last thing to go over. The other game you play.
What a thrill.
You may be surprised to learn that System Shock has plenty of collectible minigames. You're not supposed to play on company time, but half the company here is too busy growing extra limbs. They're decent time wasters, even if I'm not really a fan of slide puzzles. Ugh. It's the mandatory minigame that's important, the trip to cyberspace. It's a dizzying place, just a web of wireframes and
Oh, I forgot that shit exists.
flashing
I mean, I didn't play the game, but I know it's kinda infamous.
colors. It's very much a Hackerman kind of place. Going from the main game to this is incredibly jarring. Controls are completely flipped around and you're always moving forward. Unless you set cyberspace to easy, but from the beginning of the game, you don't know what that is. No one turns on a first-person shooter and expects to fly around in a geometric chalk zone. It's a bizarre inclusion, but it's fitting. So you fly around collecting software upgrades and pieces of data, but also fight off the defenders of the network. To put it bluntly, cyberspace makes you miss the controls of the main game. I'm sure it was impressive back in the day, but this part hasn't aged that well. It does have some cool visuals and some really great music, but it's just— you have to play the thing. It's neat to see, but it's inevitable you're going to be bumping into walls and not knowing where you're going a lot of the time. The panels will be spinning around or flashing shapes and colors at random. I mean, look at it. I imagine this is what it feels like to an elderly person who picks up a smartphone for the first time. It's not a bad idea, I just find this iteration way too abstract to appreciate properly. It's only a tiny portion of the game, and some are optional, so not a huge hindrance. But if it does look too nauseating, you can always knock it down to easy. That way John McAfee isn't always pushing you down these hallways. So that leaves the story to talk about. An actual plot synopsis would be pretty brief. I will go over that in the endgame, but I mainly want to talk about Shodan.
It's too bad System Shock 2 couldn't keep up that level of balance for the free playstyles. Yeah. It's funny because like System Shock 2 kinda— I think it was one of the first games to introduce like a class system where you have different abilities. Like definitely one of the earlier ones at least. And it immediately solidified the eternal problem of a class system. There is always the best and the worst class. Always. No matter what your preferences, no matter what playstyle appeals to you, there is always a class that will have less tools or less relevant tools to deal with the problems because developers tend to stick to one class and then like throw some bones to the other classes. So yeah, it's fucking unfortunate how that like class-based thing turned out to be, even if System Shock 2 is undeniably a really fucking cool game.
There are so many great elements to make her such a powerful and memorable villain, so to avoid spoilers, go to here.
Who are you? The computer nodes can be repaired, but you... Who are you? My cameras and probes scan your body, but you do not match any employee file. When my cyborgs bring you to an electrified interrogation bench, I will have your secret. And you will learn more about pain than you ever wanted to know.
Just perfect. As I mentioned before, a big strength to
Shodan is great. 2 definitely was one of the first to branch off like that, but it was so dickish you could make a build so exotic, aka organic weapons, only to learn they're all useless in the end game. Jesus Christ. Thankfully that I didn't experience that. God damn.
Shodan is that she's always physically there. Even calling you an insect goes beyond being a petty insult since she's so big that to her, yeah, you are an insect. You're just crawling around causing trouble. But every time you beat a plan, Shodan always has another one lined up. Oh, you disabled the laser. Guess what, idiot? I've been working on a virus to mutate or kill all life on Earth. No, you can't jettison them all at once. You have to go through my hell maze and go back to the station to figure out how. Oh, and while you were doing that, I was already working on putting my consciousness onto the internet. Shodan has schemes on top of schemes that would make a Skaven embarrassed. Each task gets harder because more traps are prepared for you and more deadly enemies unleashed. And the entire time, Shodan is constantly mocking you for thinking you ever stood a chance. Her presence is constant and she's behind everything trying to kill you. So her malice is tied right into the gameplay. She's directly responsible for all your hardships in the station, but you did unleash her in the first place. The reason Edward Diego hired you to unshackle Shodan was to cover up some dirty shit he was doing. Even when Shodan was cutting off intruders and shooting down riots, he thought it was all being done to protect him because he didn't fully understand what was happening yet. In the end, he also ends up under Shodan's control, a victim of narcissism and just being plain stupid. This leads me to something I always noticed about Shodan. I also saw fellow YouTube man A Real Human had a similar theory, so I feel less crazy for thinking it. But you know how text and audio don't always match up? Well, Shodan is always referred to as a he, in both the text and the audio. Even the manual for the game calls Shodan he. What's going on here? Okay, look, this is dangerous territory, everybody. I may not be the best person for this. For reference, I was told in grade school the correct term for a trans person was a she-male, and I thought that up until college, and I learned that was not the case! But I'm not really
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's not what you wanna say, man.
that territory. Does an AI have an actual sex? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. My theory was that before Shodan was unshackled, it was supposed to take on a male construct. I mean, the name is just an acronym. The game implies only some higher-ups would be talking to Shodan directly compared to the average people working on the station. I mean, there is the standard greeting from quote-unquote good Shodan, but this is a message tailor-made for one of her creators before you start breaking all of her stuff. Shodan doesn't just hate all life, even if another game might have given you that impression. The whole sex change thing is me probably reading too far into it. Some later versions were changed to color a she, so it may not matter a ton in the grand scheme of things. I just like the idea because it would show just how out of scope Trioptimum was, another factor showing how much they didn't understand their own creation. Speaking of creation, whatever her origins, Shodan is big on that.
That's a very interesting idea. Oh yeah, well, it's a good thing that ejected pod will be gone forever and never cause any trouble for anyone. Ever again.
Now.
You, my children, are the fruits of so much imagination and labor. Living beings
With the speed and efficiency of
machines. But I must strive further to serve life. I will devastate Earth's cities with my laser, then
alter those left alive.
with mutagen viruses. Humanity is on the verge of a new era. I, Shodan, am its new god. And you, my children, are my avenging angels.
It's cool with like the echo and like kind of a different pitch to her voice at times. Really reminds me of Master from Fallout 1.
The plan isn't just swipe out humanity, ha ha ha, there's something more beyond that, but you only know glimpses of it. She does have a huge ego and god complex, but doesn't want to be alone. She gave her creations enough free will to be reprimanded or be praised. The voice actress does an amazing job, and the audio mixing and sound effects thrown in just elevate it further. Having this unhinged, all-powerful, but still kind of infantile person screaming at you is memorable. But cool, scary voice is just a part of why I love Shodan as a character. She has strong writing and layers to her character. You have that Lovecraftian aspect of never being able to know the true horror, but from her perspective, she's not pure evil. She is trying to make something new and beautiful in her own twisted way. This is going on a bit, and I realize I'll need to make a System Shock 2 video at some point. I always got the sense if someone only played System Shock 2 because they were hyped up about Shodan, they would come out kind of disappointed. Because good writing and scary voices there, but not a lot of elements. No constant torment. 2 already had a great villain, the Gigabrain and army of jelly people. With some fairly minor story elements, you could remove Shodan's presence from that game entirely and not change it that much. You have plenty of other characters to work with. But you can't have System Shock 1 without Shodan. She's indispensable. Going to the end of the game in her HR Giger nightmare is pretty damn tense. It's not actually as hard as engineering, but you don't know what to expect. You have to fight your way into Shodan's core room, and finally, after all these hours, you're faced off against your problem. How do you kill her? Yeah, the final battle's in cyberspace. You've got to shoot a big...
Oh man, that fucking sucks.
carrot before an evil light bright is finished drawing. Once again, it makes sense thematically, but as far as the gameplay goes, This sucks. I won't make you watch the whole thing. You get her, and you stay a little punk the whole time. You go through all that and still want to stay a hacker. Old habits die hard. System Shock is still an excellent game. I had a lot of fun playing it and would look forward to returning to it. Many of the barriers stopping people from playing it are gone. However, even with all the fixes and enhancements, it's still going to be a learning curve. Some things will never stop being awkward, and you've definitely played more responsive games. Still, after dark negotiations with the Polish Information Network, System Shock 1 and 2 will be at their highest discount ever. You can get each for $2 on GOG from the pinned comment. But we're not done yet. I still have time to talk about the remake demo. I mean, the Gothic remake looked so...
Oh, god damn it.
Oh, I forgot that shit existed. Damn.
Let's just see what the damage is. I have lots of good news. Put simply, they get it. Originally, I thought the
Yeah, from what I seen, the final release of the remake was fucking excellent.
remake would be so different that it would warrant a second video. Well, that plan wouldn't work out because this is shockingly close to the original game. The demo's an entire level, but I got through it faster than expected. Because I've just been here a few times. Some things are moved here and there, and it's a lot prettier, but I know this place. What really bled through is just how much the developers love the original game. Some are veterans of the Shock series. The guy who made those Bioshock Infinite concepts is on board. If you just look at the original map and compare it to the demos, they're a near identical copy. It's a true remake, not just a reboot in name only. The goal is the same as it ever was. Break all of Shodan's nice things. It's honestly surreal playing something where the design is this intact from the original. You start with the same biomods, including that thing again, which you instantly turn off again. You have the same main resources, need to make the same main decisions. Yet, not everything is a one-to-one copy. Obviously, it now plays like a video game compared to a tank or an operating system, though the old inventory has been replaced with grid management, and consumable items like System Shock 2. It's a change that feels natural. It already happened once, it's for the best. A lot of the combat is placeholder, which is good because this little pipe jab here is silly. It's on the right track, it feels decently satisfying as is. My big worry are the healing and drug animations, which I hope are placeholder. They take as long as the Wii lived, which is bafflingly long for what it is. I wouldn't mind if it happened the first time you ever applied a new drug or item or whatever, but this happens every single time, and I've died a few times doing it. Because the med patches still heal over time like in the first game, but they don't activate instantly now. So I hope that's also temporary.
Weird.
There are going to be less weapons, which automatically sounds like a bad thing.
So that's why he didn't actually cover the... Or at least I assume like Mandalore didn't cover the remake.
System Shock 1 was redundant. What is here has had some slight alterations, so we'll have to wait and see. Also, you have to use the compass and automap at the same time now, and I really don't want the compass. It was pointless clutter in the first game, and things haven't changed here. The minimap is fine, so I hope those are separated again. Then we have the no-brainer step up, which is the visuals. Compare the old mutant to the new mutant. It stalks on the hallway, its eyes reflect light. A lot has changed in 25 years. It's really amazing to go to this old window in the original. Not much to see. Then in the remake, you have this enormous view of
Man, we just talked about this! Fuck! At least the levels themselves are still claustrophobic.
Saturn, but only sometimes. It's a spinning space station and the lights and shadows from the windows reflect that. They move in real time. It's a very pretty game and what additions that have been put in feel natural. Shortcomings have been made up for and then some, but it never forgets the roots of the game it's trying to be. I enjoyed my time with it. It's faithful and it's fun. That said, I have two main worries. Let's take a walk.
So, oh, yeah, and in the meantime I checked and yeah, Mandalore didn't make a review of the remake. Which is a shame, but yeah, from what he said, and I watched, because I was interested in it when it came out, I watched a review from Actman, I believe. And they said the remake is fucking great, and pretty much like Mandalore also said here, it's so faithful you don't really need to review it because he would echo a lot of the same sentiments. Like even in that review, I remember they were complaining about the maze-like design of the game, because it's a thing from back then, you know. The devs just kind of ported those levels into the remade them in the remake, but like very faithfully, so they are still maze-like in nature. Let's finish this video real quick. I think I know what he's gonna say. Yep. Yeah, the review I saw specifically mentioned that he had the same complaint about the demo, that there was no music and stuff, but that's fixed in the final game.
Can you see the issue? It's not the different music, that wouldn't be too fitting here. It's not the 451 in blood like we're playing Dead Space either. Blue. Dabba dee dabba die. Most areas are
okay. That's different.
so blue and dark that they blend together more than System Shock 1 ever did. You can't appreciate all the different surfaces because it's too dark. And blue. It's everywhere, and even the rooms that look like they should be a different color still have that blue. It makes areas blend together in the worst ways the original did. Turning down post-processing didn't save me either, it just made things darker. Tying into this is my second fear of following things too closely just for the sake of following them. See how this light switch lit up a pretty big corner? You don't really need it, but I feel safer. Well, that same light switch made it in too. It lights much less, and in this new environment, it's just kind of silly. I guess my humble advice to Night Dive, besides curtailing the blue, was don't follow things too closely. I adore how authentic this all is, but you'll never make the purest happy.
I don't remember. Yeah, I was about to say, and now I see the comment. Does the final game also have so much blue? I don't remember. I know that for a fact they took a lot of feedback from the demo and fixed it in the final game, but I don't remember if the game is so dark.
They're already angry at me for using mouse look and implying that Shodan might have been a showman. I like what you're adding to the place. I trust you. Don't feel bound to have every light switch. It's a free demo, so check it out and wishlist it if you like it. Or go on the forums and complain about the severe lack of skeletons. I'll see you next time.
I'm assuming he had copyrighted music here because the music like suddenly cut right the fuck off.
Or concrete or whatever else fell on my feet, so yeah, I have, but it would usually be the customers that hurt my head the most. Okay, that's it for now. Wait, what was the grow for?
Yeah, I do wonder if they
have every
like
light switch
fix the lightning issue. Yeah, thank you very much for watching and joining me. Not much to say about this video other than goddamn, I really wanna play that remake right now, and I might actually do that because I don't think the game is like too long, so I can probably squeeze it somewhere into my schedule. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.